Welcome back, Chapter 8. As soon as Etta reached the house, guilt flooded her. She shouldn't have wasted time on a cooking contest. Her excuse was that, from her observation, women here were wives, prostitutes, or unmarried, which meant she was a spinster or a widow. And it seemed that the last two were to be pitied. A woman without a man was sad, or in Martha's case, bitter. When the cook told Etta she couldn't do what he did, she lost control. She could almost see Lester. If she ever turned down a challenge like that, he would have been ashamed of her. He would have walked away and probably not spoken to her for days. She just looked at the grizzled old cook and said, "You want to bet?" Blazing hot skillets and lots of meat were her domain. The cook stuck his dirty hand into a jar of sourdough starter, preparing to make fried bread. Etta knew that would be too slow. When she reached for a bag of cornmeal, a cheer went up. About half of the men were from Mexico, and they knew a tortilla in the making when they saw it. Etta rolled out dough on top of a metal box, then slapped it back and forth in her hands. As she'd done 1,000 times. Lester didn't believe in tortillas purchased from a supermarket. Oddly shaped tomatoes appeared, and she had an idea they came from the men's home garden. When Etta meal was ready quicker and tasted better, she was concerned that she made an enemy of the cook. But he was laughing hard. He even whispered that he wanted her to show him how to season the beans like she did. It had all been wonderful until she saw her husband. It was still strange for her to think of him as such. The men were laughing, cheering, slapping each other on the back, and Etta was the center of it all. He was frowning, but underneath it, she saw curiosity and interest. When an older cowboy told him about Etta winning, for a split second, her husband looked pleased. That glance gave her courage to be flippant with him, to make a smart aleck reply. When she got in the house, all she knew for sure was that she needed to make up for lost times. She could wake up from the dream at any moment. She didn't want to read in some history book that Alice Lawton had died alone. Not that any of this is real, she reminded herself. When she entered the house, she heard Sally singing in the distance, probably in the glass room. Alice had taken care of her and the music. Etta was happily surprised to see Frida and Alice at the big dining table looking at a long sheet of paper. They were talking quietly, their heads almost touching, and planning what to plant in front of the house. She heard elm trees and dogwoods. Etta was relieved. She knew her sister never snubbed anyone, but this was different time and place. She'd been concerned that Alice might be put off by Frida's gaudy dress and her heavily roughed cheeks. Etta added makeup lessons to her mental list of things to do. When Etta turned around, her husband was there, looking out the window. He obviously wasn't approving. "You don't want your sister consulted with a scarlet lady?" She saw the way his mouth tightened. He nodded towards the front of the house. "Now, there are 2 men outside helping her. In half an hour, there will be 4 men, then 6. Her past customers?" He blinked at Etta nonchalant, then nodded yes. "She seems to be well liked," Etta said. "She's happy and she makes us, them feel good." He answered her unasked questions, if he'd been a client of Frida. It appeared that he had. She wasn't sure, but his face seemed to turn red. "I'll take them with me when I go get the vegetables," she said. He turned to her. "And you need 200 horses?" It took her a second to know what he meant, then she smiled. "Mechanical horses, yes. A big truck would be nice. I could." Suddenly, she felt dizzy. She put her hand on her forehead. No, 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 she thought. "I can't wake up now. I have things to do. I have to match people together." She looked up at him. "I have so much more to do," she whispered. Then her knees gave way under her. When Etta woke up, she didn't open her eyes. She knew she'd seen Ben's room. Then she'd go downstairs to Henry. There would be days in his beautiful old house, and she probably never returned to the past, never again to see Alice nor her husband. "Are you awake?" came a soft male voice. Henry. She didn't open her eyes. The bed was so very soft. She hadn't experienced a 1870 bed, but it was probably made of wood. "Want some water?" That voice. Slowly, she opened her eyes. She was not in Ben's room, not looking at Henry. "Max?" she whispered. He gave a one-sided smile. "Not calling me Mr. Lawton?" She started to sit up, but you can't do a crunch while wearing a corset. She fell back down and looked around. It was a bedroom, but one she'd not seen. His? It was as bare as a monk's cell. There was a tall pine wardrobe, a plain chest of drawers, and a wooden chair. When she turned her head, she saw that he was stretched out beside her, fully dressed, not touching her. "I guess I fainted again." Women do. He put his hands behind his head and looked up at the ceiling. "Last time I thought you died." "I did, in a way." He didn't look at her. "To get away from me?" "No, I didn't want to leave. And I don't now." She ran her hand over her coverlet. "This bed is soft. I thought there was nothing in this state that wasn't as hard as iron." "My mother plucked the bellies of geese and filled the mattress. She said it helped her deal with my father. It spoiled me." "So you kept it up?" She needed to get up. She still had so much to do. "I sent Alice and Frida with Rufus to get your vegetables." She rolled to face him and lifted her head on one hand. "You let Alice leave the house with a, what did you call her? A painted cat? And who is Rufus?" "Old guy, red shirt." "Ah, yeah, I remember him. Nice man. Bet he's all of 40 years old." Her words were a challenge, but he didn't comment. Excuse me. Sorry. He didn't comment on them. "The preacher's coming tomorrow morning." "How did you achieve that?" With barely concealed pride, he told her that he hired the preacher and had invited the lawyer to dinner. "I swear that I can hear 1,000 cows, but not be this exhausted." He looked at her. Let me read that again. "I swear that I can herd 1,000 cows, but not be this exhausted." He looked at her. "How'd you know the preacher knew about numbers?" Caught, Etta thought. So now what? She would tell Max that he's not real? That he's only part of her dream? Or did she tell him she was a time traveler, then describe cars and planes and computers? Right now, all that seemed unreal. It was like that was the dream and this was the actual world. Alice letters, she thought. They would be her way out. Did Alice read you the letter she wrote to me? "No, just your replies." Etta sighed in relief. "She told me about people here and I put the bits together. I shouldn't have told you that. Swear you won't tell her that I betrayed her confidence." "Alice knew about the preacher? She never met him." "I guess you told her more about him than you thought. Then she told me." She spoke quickly before he asked more questions. "When you had trouble with the accounts, I realized there might be a solution." He took a moment to think about that. But Etta didn't want to answer more questions about how she knew things. She interrupted. "Do you isolate Alice or does she do it herself?" He didn't take offense at her words but thought about them. "She and I both tend to stay away from other people. We meet who we have to. We don't have parties. Cornelia used to." He stopped. "It's all right. You can talk about her. She gave parties and she made sure Alice went to them. And now, with Cornelia gone, there is no more socializing, so you and Alice stay home, alone, just the two of you?" Etta thought how much that sounded like Alicia and her father. After her mother died, it was Etta who got them to move and do and go. When Philip entered their lives, he took over a lot of Etta's job as the social director, as her father called her. "I didn't know she liked the lawyer," he said. "I would have." He didn't seem able to come up with what he would have done. Invited him over for canned peaches? Yeah, maybe I would have. He turned to look at her. They were facing each other quite close. I can't imagine my little sister married. It seemed like yesterday when I was fishing her out of the river. He smiled. She tried to catch fish with her hands and almost fell in. I taught her how to swim. Did she talk to many people? Listen to them? She always has. More than once I found her alone with some stranger and they were whispering, telling her things they told no one else on earth. That's true. One time I got really angry when I saw her with some old man and he was crying. I thought, never mind what I thought. He was telling her his life story. Yes. Later she told me about it. He built a big house for the woman he was going to marry, but she died right after the wedding. He never went back to the house. It's in Mason, Kansas. Not far from here. Etta drew in her breath. Mason was where Henry and Ben bought the desk and the trunk. The desk that was now in Mac's office. It was also where Henry's ancestor built a house. Was he the man of the tragic story? She knew what he was feeling. Strangers on planes and restaurants everywhere told her sister horrible stories. They poured out their hearts to Alicia. It's a shame to hide away someone who has the superpower of empathy. He chuckled at that. Superpower? You say odd things. So what's your superpower? Dreaming, she thought. But he was waiting for her to answer. I guess it's that I tend to take care of people. It makes me feel good. Need it. You certainly turned Alice and me upside down. For a moment, they looked into each other's eyes. I haven't meant to be abrasive, she said. I just feel that I need to do some things. Once I get them done, she had no idea what to say. He was such a good-looking man. The extreme masculinity of him surrounded her. I'm sorry I made you want to leave. Alice and I, and now even the men, want you to stay. He looked at her for a moment. Sometimes I feel like I've known you for a long time. I just can't quite place where and when we met. Instinctively, Etta moved her face a bit closer to his. Was it time for kissing? He didn't move away. Maybe we could. Noise and laughter and a slamming door interrupted him. They're back. Reluctantly, Etta started to get up, but when Max stayed where he was, she lay back down beside him and they listened. They heard female voices through the closed door. Frida's was lower and had a suggestion of something naughty in it, while Alice's laughter was higher and innocent. Sally sang a few notes. Etta looked at Max. His eyes were closed, and he was smiling. I haven't heard her laugh in a long time, he said softly. As they lay there side by side, the air filled with Sally's beautiful voice and song. Listen to the mockingbird. Freddie and Alice joined in. It was a trio of female voices, and it was lovely. On the bed, Max reached out and took Etta's hand in his and held it. When they began to sing the mournful Rock Me to Sleep, Mother, he tightened his grip on her hand. Even Etta, with her limited knowledge of history, knew that old song was associated with a young dying soldier in the war between the states. She didn't know Max's age, but he may have fought in that horrible war. When the song finished, they lay there, not moving, just holding hands. It was Alice who threw the door open. Max, I can't find Etta. Oh, she said when she saw them. Oh. Behind her, a laughing Frida pulled the door shut. Max got off the bed, then reached out to help Etta up. She took his hand and let him pull her up. It's hard to move when there are planks of wood strapped to the middle of me. I can help you remove that, he said so solemnly that she was startled. Was he making a sex remark? He gave no hint one way or the other before he left the bedroom. When Etta followed him, she realized she was on the second floor. She hadn't seen this part of the house. Besides Max's bedroom, there were two closed doors. She opened one and saw it was full of wooden boxes, old saddles, half a dozen trunks, storage. She wondered if her trunk, the one that sat on the foot of Ben's bed had been put in here. Did she put the lace wedding jacket in there? The idea gave her a bit of the creeps. She closed the door. The third door was locked. More junk? She wondered. For a moment, she fantasized that it contained a bathroom, tub, shower, two sinks, a toilet that flushed. Turned on a faucet and hot water came out. Etta, she thought, you are old. You've got a drop-dead gorgeous husband, yet you fantasize about hot water heater? Laughing at herself, she went down the stairs and found everything was quiet. No more singing, no laughter, just silence. She found Alice in the kitchen, staring at a canvas bag and a big basket of freshly picked vegetables. Where is everyone? Freddie, she paused. She said that only her father ever called her that, and she wonders how you know. She is letting out all her secrets. It just seems natural, Etta said. She was searching for an apron. There was zucchini, yellow squash, new potatoes, early peas. Not the variety of later in the season, but good for April. Tell me, what you did today? It's been wonderful, Alice said dreamily. Freddie told me all about herself. Of course she did, Etta thought. Tell me everything. She gave Alice some potatoes to peel, but she was so slow and awkward that Etta took them back. Etta chopped and cooked while Alice told Freddie's story. Her mother died giving birth to her third daughter. Then her father died when Freddie was 14. Alice lowered her voice to a whisper. She sold her body to feed her two younger sisters, but after they grew up and got married, they wanted nothing to do with a harlot. That wasn't fair, was it? Etta smiled in pride. No, not fair at all. Sorry. I really got to remember to put that daggone thing on. Max is going to be angry at me. I hired Freddie. She's going to make a real garden here. We're going to grow food like this. Esmeralda cousin can help us. She was crying. Esmeralda? No, the cousin. We saw her today. She's had 2 marriage offers. One man is good for her, but the other one, well, she craves him. I told her. Alice looked at Etta in embarrassment. You told her to go for the guy who turns her on? What an odd turn of phrase, but yes, I did. She and Etta looked at each other and laughed. It's what my sister did. She went for a man who could use his hand in lots of ways. The two of them howled with laughter. And Max thinks Alice is pure innocent. Ha! By 6:30, everything was ready. Food was cooked, the table set. I have to dress, Alice said. Silk and my mother's pearls. She disappeared into her side of the house. Etta looked down at herself. She had on the dress she'd been married in. She worn it while riding through dirty streets, while cooking at a chuck wagon, and now when preparing Cupid's dinner, as she come to think of it, the one to unite Alice with the love of her life. Max returned from wherever he'd been, and he was sparkling clean. He had on a white shirt and dark trousers. There wasn't a spot of dirt on him. You took a bath. Her tone was accusation. She held out her arms to indicate her sweaty self. Just in the river, he said defensively. You have other clothes? She had no idea what she brought with her. She didn't even know where her trunk was. She followed him to the side porch, and there it was, set among the mops and brooms. It looked like he tossed it out of the wagon. I should have brought it in, he mumbled. She found the key deep in the pocket of her skirt and opened it. It contained 2 more dresses in dark, boring colors and a long nightgown that was as sexy as a rock. She looked up at Max, her face showing her disappointment. She pulled out a dress of mud brown and held it up. It exactly matches the color of the streets of Garrett. He gave a little laugh, then motioned for her to follow him. In the kitchen, he opened a cabinet door. Hanging inside was a big key. He took it out, then nodded for her to follow him upstairs. He went to the locked door and opened it. Inside was like a time capsule. It was as though someone got out of bed, left the room, and locked the door. The bed hadn't been made. A hairbrush was on a chair. A single shoe was on the floor. What was unusual was that everything was covered in dust, with spider webs collecting more. She looked at him. My mom's room. We just closed it. He shrugged as though he had no reason why. He went to the big mahogany wardrobe and opened the door. You may have anything you want. Oh, that's very kind of you. You can stay in here tonight if you like, or downstairs near Alice. A room was set up for you there. He hesitated. I could bring up some hot water. I really would love that, she said, and he left. For a moment, she looked at the closed doors. Downstairs near Alice, she quoted him. It looked like he never planned on his marriage being a real one, with a shared bed. She didn't have time to think about it. The lawyer would be here soon, Alice's future husband. Inside the wardrobe were a dozen dresses hanging from pegs. Tomorrow I invent coat hangers. The clothes looked like they would fit her. Of course, she said. It's my dream, so I made them for me. There was a dress of lilac silk that she quite liked, and she pulled it out. So now the question was how to get undressed and redressed. The clothes weren't exactly slip on and off. And there was the corset. Shame on me for complaining about underwire bras. She was struggling with her arms at the back when there was a knock on the door, and she opened it. Max was holding a wooden bucket full of steaming hot water. One bucket, she thought, and I want a tub full. She motioned for him to come in. He set the bucket down and looked around. I think Alice and I want to forget this room. For a moment, he watched Etta struggle with the dress. I'll leave you to it. I need a knife to cut myself out of this thing. You couldn't help me, could you? I guess. She turned her back to him. When he did nothing, she twisted around to look at him. He was frowning, puzzled. It felt good that he didn't know how to undress a woman. Freddie still here? I sent her home. I don't want her being a distraction to the lawyer. Right. His attention is to be on Alice. Max put his hand on her back and began loosening the hooks on the dress. With each one, Etta felt relief from pressure. When the last one was undone, she shimmied out of the dress, letting it puddle on the floor. Thank heavens, she turned around. He was staring at her. To Etta, she was fully clothed. A t-shirt and jeans was a lot less clothing than the yards of cotton she was wearing. She even had on stockings. But Max didn't seem to think she was covered. Maybe it was the way he said that Freddie was fun, or maybe it was his reference to Etta's age. But a devil seemed to enter her. She batted her lashes at him. Could you help me with this thing? She meant her corset. It's cutting into me something awful. He bent as though he was going to kiss her, but then stepped back. Not what I can do, he said quickly. I'll send Esmeralda. With that, he left the room with the speed of a tiger with his tail on fire. What the hell? She said out loud. It's probably the only wedding night I'll ever have, and I don't even get kissed? She rolled her eyes skyward. This is my dream, and I want control of it. Got that? Whoever is in charge of this thing? Esmeralda didn't show up, so Etta had to figure out corset laces by herself. It was harder than making croissant by hand. 20 minutes later, she had washed as best as she could and dressed in the heavy but beautiful dress. She went downstairs to the kitchen to check on everything. On the table was a basket of early strawberries. The sight of them took away some of her annoyance. Alice came into the room and she looked divine, like a vision in a dream she could look. Etta told her so, then asked where the strawberries came from. We left them in the wagon. They were a gift from a man I told the girl she could marry. How nice. Yes and no. He included some hard little green fruits and a bottle of something that was bad. It had a worm in the bottom. Etta's eyes widened. Where is it? I put it in the pantry. I'll pour it out later. Etta nearly leaped to the pantry. Well, as much as the weight of her clothing allowed. Hidden in a corner near 6 bags of beans, she found it, lime and a bottle of tequila. She took them into the kitchen. Etta, she said in horror, you can't use that. It has a worm in it. I'm going to make strawberry margaritas. My kingdom for a blender. But Etta cut her off. Do you have any pretty drinking glasses? Crystal, maybe? Mother has a set. I know where they are. Alice left the kitchen. Etta began making a pitcher full of drinks. She had an idea that Max would be angry that she fed spirits to his precious sister, but tequila generally helped any party. When it was close to 7, Alice went to her room to check her hair and clothes. She was so nervous she was shaking. Max came into the kitchen. She hadn't seen him since she'd been standing before him in her underwear. He didn't seem to want to meet her eyes. One of the men saw the lawyer. He's almost here. What's that? Heaven in a glass. She poured some into one of the Irish crystal glasses that Alice had found. He took a drink. Nice. What's in it? A drunken worm. She poured herself half a glass and drank it all. She needed strength for this dinner. I want to see him. Is he worthy of our Alice? The affection in her voice pleased him. Come on. He led her to a window at the back of the house. Feeling the warming effects of the drink, she looked out. A tall man was on a horse. She expected to see Philip, Alicia's husband, but that wasn't him. That's Ben, she said in shock. Henry's son. He's the lawyer, name of Bertram. I think he's called Bert. No. That man belongs to Caroline, to Cornelia. She tried to think what to do. This is bad, very, very bad. She looked at him. You have to go get Cornelia and bring her here. He like, what? Max turned away and left the room, walking quickly. Not on my life. I know that's right, he said over his shoulders. But then it could be a good thing. Maybe Cornelia stopped bothering him. She ran after him. It's for Alice. You have to trust me on this. If she marries Ben, she'll be miserable. Etta stopped for a moment. She didn't know that for sure, but at the same time, she instinctively did know. Caroline and Ben went together. That's how it was supposed to be. Had to be. Maybe they'd eventually produce Henry's ancestor, who would produce Henry. She looked at the back of Max. If you don't go get her, I will. There was a still in her voice. I'll tell her that you want to sell all your land to her father, even the homestead. She'll come running on a stallion. Halting, he turned to her. That's blackmail. Yes, it is. You must go. He took a moment to contemplate what she was saying, and his face softened. It's all right. There's nothing between Cornelia and me. Etta gritted her teeth. And I'm not jealous. This is more serious than female ownership of some man. Ooh, excuse me. Sorry. Hold on. Alice likes the lawyer, but he belongs to Cornelia. She saw that her words were having no effect on him. Do you want Cornelia off your back or not? He hesitated. Do you think that she'll let up on you just because you got married? She's a woman scorned. She will never forgive or forget. Your only hope is to put her with another man. She could see that she was making headway in persuading him. Please, she said, trust me. After what seemed like forever, he nodded. He'd do it. He'll be at the door soon. Get one of the men to keep him busy. Then you get on the fastest horse and go get her. It'll take an hour or more. I need 200 horses now, she said. Just go as fast as you can. I'll distract Alice. With a look that all this was ridiculous, he grabbed his hat and left the house. Etta waited, expecting the lawyer to knock on the door, but he didn't. She peeked out a window and saw two men practically dragging the lawyer into the barn. Poor man was gesturing that he was supposed to go into the house. He was barely out of sight when Max went tearing past on a horse at full speed. Were they eavesdropping? Oh my, Etta said. He certainly did look good. Where's Max going? Alice said from behind her. To the grocery, she said before she thought. There was an accident. He'll be back soon. When Alice turned away, Etta put her foot firmly down on one of her petticoats that was just visible under the silk. It ripped. Oh, I'm so sorry. Esmeralda will have to fix that. But he'll be here soon. I'll just pin it. He might see that and think you're a slovenly person, Etta said seriously. You're right. Esmeralda, Alice shouted. I need you. Alice was hardly out of the room when Etta heard a sound that was becoming familiar. A wagon was driving. Now what? She thought. Drop-in visitor? To her belief, she saw Max driving a silver and black buggy that didn't take any historical knowledge to know that it was a Mercedes of the day. Beside him was the elegant, the beautiful, the eternal, bad-tempered Cornelia. Why did I think inviting her was a good idea? Etta mumbled. Max seemed to know she was watching as he turned angry, glaring eyes on her. Etta stepped out of sight. Okay, so now I can wake up. Nah, you gotta go through with it. Nothing happened. An angry Max got out of the elegant buggy and started to go around to help Cornelia down, but the handsome Hank beat him to it. Max gave a look of disgust and went to the house and straight to Etta. She was on her way here, he said, his jaw clenched. Her father sent her back to finish the job she failed today. What job? Of getting me to annul our marriage and marry her, or her father's going to sue me. Oh, Etta said. Can you afford that? Not at all. Then help me marry Corny to Ben Burt. Ben what? And Corny? I dare you call her that to her face. Etta was thinking. It would be better if you weren't so friendly to me. I don't want to set her off. What gave you the idea that I was friendly? And she knows it's over between her and me. You say that because you want to fight. That poor girl has a narcissistic, power-hungry father who is demanding that she do whatever he wants. She is not going to give up. She raised an eyebrow at him. Today? You saw her today? You didn't tell me that. When? His eyes said he was getting her back for her threats to him. She showed up between the preacher and the lawyer. She pulled me into a shade and kissed me. She said she wanted to marry me. That he kissed another woman, but not her, made Etta angry. Maybe you should marry her since you like her kisses so damn much. And just so you know, I'm better at kissing than I am at cooking. She did a spin on her heel and turned away from him. In the next moment, she was in his arm and he was kissing her. I know that's right. Ah! It wasn't an ordinary kiss. There was no awkwardness to it, no strangeness. It was as though they knew each other. And now, in spite of time and distance, they were at last together. It was Max who broke away. Then he held her close to his chest. She could feel his heart pounding under her cheek. Who are you? He whispered. Where have you come from? I don't know, she said honestly. When they heard voices, they broke apart. For a moment, they stood there looking at each other, hearts pounding hard and fast. Then the doors to hell seemed to open up. Alice came out from her side of the house. The lawyer came in the front door, and the divine Miss Cornelia entered the house from the back. In the middle were Max and Etta. For a second, their fingertips touched. The war begins, he said. Then he stepped forward. At dinner, Etta couldn't bear to look at Alice. What she was feeling was so clear she might as well be wearing a sign. Why have you done this to me? Max sat at one end of the table and Etta at the other end. She meant for the lawyer and Alice to sit across from each other. They did, but Cornelia sat herself next to Bert. She even moved her chair closer to him. Her actions were understandable after having been dumped by Max. Etta didn't know Ben and Caroline in the 21st century, but if their attraction to each other was as quick as between Cornelia and the lawyer, it's a wonder they didn't elope on the first day. I met your father, Bert said to Cornelia after the introduction, and I saw you with him. He didn't need to say that. Him was Max. A goodbye, that's all, Cornelia said, sounding wistfully and sad. He insisted. When Max started to contradict her, Etta glared at him. Wisely, he didn't speak. She nodded at the big chunk of Kansas beef that she roasted. He was to slice it. Tell us about your job, she said to Bert. It's good, he mumbled. He couldn't take his eyes off of Cornelia. I heard you were moving to Wichita, Max said. Just a rumor spread by Miss Ellis. So you like our little town? Cornelia asked demurely. Etta and Max exchanged looks. This wasn't the woman they seen earlier, the one wielding a riding crop. I'm thinking of building a house here. Etta remembered the photos of Garrett in the book of Kansas ghost towns. It was bare land. Not one building had survived. No, she said loudly, and they all looked at her. I mean, Garrett depends on the railroad, doesn't it? If the rail connection is moved to, say, Wichita, Garrett might disappear. They were staring at her. She had told too much, but she couldn't stop. Kansas City, she said, it has trains and cows both. She knew that from all the movies she watched with her father. They were still staring at her in a way that made her uncomfortable. And Cornelia can design a house for you. To Etta's great relief, they looked at Cornelia. Can you do that? Bert asked. I believe I can. She was beautifully modest. Etta took a bite. Italian, 2 stories, round top windows, porch across the front and to one side. Simple, not gaudy, timeless. Of course she was describing Henry's family house. Yet again, everyone looked at Etta as though she was a freak. Max saved her. So how do you like your food? Etta cooked everything. Etta braced herself for Cornelia to say something about old and plain women, but she said nothing. Max also waited, seemingly to expect Cornelia comment. When there was nothing, he said, Here, have one of these. In all the turmoil, Etta had forgotten the picture of margaritas, strawberry lime juice and tequila, delicious and lethal. Max filled the glasses. He hesitated at giving one to Alice, but Etta gave him a look to not leave his sister out. Alice had had enough of being excluded. The drinks on their relatively empty stomachs took away the tension. Alice frequently cut looks at Max and Etta as though they were traitors, but she made a funny story out of her and Freddie's trip to get vegetables. Bert was the first to understand. You mean Frida from the Red Dog? Yes, I hired her to work for us. You did what? Max sounded threatening. Cornelia said, Don't you dare use that tone with her. Alice is my friend, and you took her away from me. In her anger, she was coming up out of her seat. Even though he just met her, Bert put a hand on Cornelia's wrist. It was like he applied a tranquilizer to her, and she sat back down. I guess he is the man for her. It's funny, Etta thought. 2 people can say the same thing, yet one enrages you and the other soothes you. You are always welcome here, she said to Cornelia. I know Alice misses you very much. Cornelia turned to her. Thank you. She paused at a moment. I'm sorry about today. She didn't finish. Forgiven, Etta said, and everyone except Alice smiled. The rest of the meal was pleasant. Bert practically hired Cornelia to design a home for him. Anything to get to see her again. Max kept smiling at Etta with thanks and relief. Cornelia acted like a Vestal Virgin for Bert, but she also pulled Alice into every conversation. Etta got the idea that being deprived of her girlfriend was half the reason she'd been angry at Max. After all, there was an unwritten law that boyfriends couldn't interfere with girlfriends. After dinner, they sat in the pretty parlor to listen to Sally sing, "Isn't she?" Bert looked at Max. "From the Red Dog?" Bert gave a quick glance at Etta, then Sally. "You may have stopped going there, but you seem to have brought them home with you." He walked away before Max could reply. Throughout the performance, Bert and Cornelia sat close and looked at each other often. It was late when they left, and Bert insisted on driving Cornelia home. He tied his horse to her buggy and they left. Max, Etta, and Alice waved goodbye to them. "Kisses in the moonlight," Etta said to Max, and he smiled. She had just solved the biggest problem of his life. When Alice sniffed, they turned to her. "I hate you both," Alice said, then ran back into the house, slamming the door behind her. It was dark, but Etta could see Max's expression. "How are you going to fix this?" was what he was asking. Suddenly, she felt dizzy. "I don't know," she said softly. "I don't even know if I'll be here." Yet again, she fainted. And that's the end of chapter 8. Ooh, Etta, you is letting out all your secrets. They looking at you like, where you come from? Like you telling them everything of the future. And girl, you better pump them brakes. But you did do a good thing by getting Cornelia off of Max's back. And child, that first kiss, is it going to leave Max wanting more or Etta wanting more? They both going to want more because it was like a magnet that just pulled them together. So now, who is going to be Alice's husband? Do you think it's going to be Hank? Let me see. Was there another guy that Alice liked? I don't think it was another guy that Alice liked, but if y'all following, y'all let me know if there was another guy that liked Alice, but maybe it might be Hank. So she fainted twice. So that means she about to go back to reality in the next chapters. But we shall find out, right? Bye for now.